Linda Reeves opened her front door that afternoon. She found her son Joseph and a stranger waiting on her porch. The stranger held a leather medical bag, his expression tense.
"Mom, this is Dr. Schaefer. He's just doing a wellness visit, checking in, making sure everything's okay."
A wellness visit? You never mentioned one. Come in.
She led them into the living room. The sofa felt like a stage today. Joseph settled with a strained smile. Dr. Schaefer tapped his clipboard.
I'll get the coffee. Make yourselves at home.
"Just follow the script. She's fragile."
Linda returned with a silver tray. If she'd heard, she showed nothing. She set a cup before Dr. Schaefer, her fingers steady, the same fingers that once held a defibrillator paddle. Dr. Schaefer opened his clipboard. The assessment was about to begin.
"Let's start with today's date. And your full name, please. Just routine."
Linda Reeves, the 12th of October. I read the paper every morning, cover to cover. Old habits.
"He didn't ask about your newspaper, Mom. Just answer the question without the commentary."
I did. I am sorry if my coherence troubles you, but that's the answer.
Dr. Schaefer wrote something down, but his pen hesitated. His eyes flicked toward the mantel, toward the photograph of a younger Linda in scrubs.
"And what was your profession before you retired, Mrs. Reeves?"
ICU charge nurse. 38 years. I could still run a code in my sleep.
"That's ancient history. She lives in the past, Doctor. This is exactly what I meant."
He still believes he can twist the truth. Some things never change.
The questions droned on, but Dr. Schaefer's pen moved slower each time. Joseph's foot tapped against the carpet. Linda simply waited, unshaken.
"You should ask her about her checkbook. She hasn't balanced it in months. I've been handling everything."
Is that so? Let me show you my ledger. Every deposit, every bill, every month since 1985.
She pulled a thin leather book from the sideboard and laid it open. The columns were immaculate.
"Mrs. Reeves, what do you do in your free time? Do you have any hobbies?"
I garden. But you aren't really asking about roses. You keep looking at that photograph.
"This is absurd. Doctor, please stick to the assessment. She's trying to distract you."
But Dr. Schaefer had already set the clipboard on the cushion. His eyes were locked on the mantel.
"That photograph. Mercy General, you said. What year exactly? I need to know."
1998. I was charge nurse in the ICU. That boy on the table was coding for the second time.
Joseph's face reddened. He grabbed for the clipboard, but the doctor pulled it away without breaking his gaze. Dr. Schaefer stood and walked toward the mantel, his shoes silent on the carpet.
That boy was 16, motorcycle accident, a collapsed lung. I can still hear the monitors.
"This is enough, Mother. The doctor doesn't need a tour of your old cases. Please, let her speak. What happened to him? Did he make it?"
He coded twice. I wouldn't let him go. He was a fighter.
"Doctor, I am warning you. Stick to the protocol. She's manipulating you."
The doctor's face went slack, then tight. He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the scar beneath his shirt.
"You saved him. That boy. He survived."
I held his hand in the hallway. He sent me a card a year later. He signed it Anton.
Joseph lunged forward, grabbing the doctor's arm. "We're done here. She's clearly unfit, ranting about strangers."
"Let go of me. This is it. She's making it all up. That's exactly the confabulation I told you about."
The attending wanted to call time of death after the second code. I refused. I told him the boy was still fighting.
"Let her finish."
Joseph's mouth opened, but no sound came. The doctor's defiance hit him like a physical blow.
"What else do you remember about that night?"
He had a long scar, a jagged line under his left clavicle. I recognized his eyes when he opened them.
The doctor's hand moved to his chest again, pressing where the scar curved under his shirt. Joseph lunged again, snatching at the clipboard. but the doctor pulled it away without looking.
Mrs. Reeves, I need to ask you something else. About that night, and the boy.
Dr. Schaefer reached for the framed photograph on the mantel, his hands unsteady as a boy's.
Doctor, sit down. That photograph has nothing to do with her competence. I've dreamed about this woman, the nurse who wouldn't let me die.
Anton, you are the boy from Mercy General. Those eyes, I never forgot.
She's lying. This is exactly the senile fantasy I warned you about.
He lunged for the photo, but the doctor pulled it against his chest and turned away. Then, with a calm that silenced the room, he set the photograph down and picked up his clipboard.
What are you writing? Stop. I'll destroy you.
The pen scratched deliberately, carving the word fraud. See attached in heavy black ink across the top of the form. Joseph's face drained of color. The clipboard lay on the table now, a verdict sealed before the confession had even been spoken.
I was that boy. The moment you set the coffee down, I recognized your hands. They're the same hands that wouldn't let go of mine.
He pulled his collar down. The scar was there, a long, pale ridge under his clavicle, just as Linda had described.
Oh my God. Anton, you grew up, and you walked into my house to ruin me.
He's lying. They planned this together. She's a senile old woman trying to steal my inheritance.
He lunged for the form on the table, but Linda snatched it away, pressing it flat against her chest.
Here, Mrs. Reeves. Tear it. I won't file it. I am so sorry for all of this.
He still believes he can twist the truth. But the boy I saved just became the man I'll trust.
You are finished. I'll have your license. My lawyer will bury you both.
Ignoring him, Dr. Schaefer placed a small card in Linda's hand. The State Medical Board, his own name crossed out beneath it.
This isn't over. You haven't heard the last of this.
Joseph made one last lunge for the form, but Linda kept it pressed against her blouse, her knuckles white.
He paid me $10,000 to declare you incompetent. I needed the money so badly, I looked away. I am sorry. You fool! That money was mine. I was protecting my inheritance. She's been bleeding me dry for years.
You brought a stranger into my home to manufacture a diagnosis. That's not protection. That's a crime.
The card I gave you, that's the medical board. File a complaint. They'll believe you.
Joseph grabbed his coat from the hook near the door, his movements jerky and uncontrolled. Without another word, he threw open the front door and stormed out, the heavy oak slamming shut behind him. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. Linda and Dr. Schaefer stood alone, the torn forms still between them.
I'll wait for the board to call. I deserve whatever comes of this.
Yes, you will. But you gave me the truth when it cost you everything. That matters.
He offered me 10 grand. I convinced myself it was harmless, but I knew.
You corrected it, Anton, but I have to file the complaint. He needs to face what he did.
Dr. Schaefer nodded, lifted his bag, and left. The front door closed softly, nothing like Joseph's slam. Linda sat alone, the torn form and the medical board card side by side on the coffee table. She pressed the numbers one by one. The phone rang twice before a woman answered. A woman's voice on the line said, "State Medical Board, how can I help you?"
I need to report a fraudulent physician. He came to my home to falsify a competency evaluation.
The woman on the other end asked Linda to spell her name. She took down every detail. Linda described the intake form, the photograph, the confession. The phone felt warm against her ear. When she finally hung up, the complaint was on file. The silence in the room had shifted. Monday morning, Linda placed the taped form and her written statement into a manila envelope on her desk. At the medical board office, she passed the envelope across the counter to a clerk. The clerk opened it. The word fraud stopped her mid-breath. She called for a supervisor. The supervisor stamped a copy and handed Linda a case number, promising an immediate investigation.
It's done. The truth is on record.
An hour later, Linda sat across from her estate attorney, a folder of powers of attorney she hadn't reviewed in years.
I need to revoke any power of attorney Joseph might hold. I want everything locked.
Her attorney assured her the revocation was simple and would hold up in any court. Linda signed the document. The pen left a clean, deliberate line when she stepped out of the attorney's office. The revocation was on file. Joseph's name would never touch her estate again. Days later, Dr. Schaefer sat in a hard-backed chair before the medical board, his head bowed.
I was paid $10,000 to falsify a competency assessment. I accept full responsibility.
His admission was recorded. The board opened a parallel investigation into Joseph Reeves immediately. That same afternoon, Joseph's phone rang. An investigator from the state board introduced himself.
There's been a mistake. My mother is delusional. The doctor must have misunderstood.
The investigator mentioned the $10,000 transfer from Joseph's account to Dr. Schaefer, traced that morning.
They have the payment, the form, everything.
The board requested his phone records. Any deleted messages would still be recoverable.
You can't do this. I'll call my lawyer.
But the investigator had already hung up. Joseph stood alone, the case number pinned to his chest like a warrant. The board's formal ruling arrived the next morning. Dr. Schaefer's license was immediately suspended, pending full revocation. Linda received a follow-up call from the board. The investigator thanked her for her courage. Her report had stopped a conspiracy.
I just told the truth. That's all I've ever done.
That same day, Joseph's employer called him into a glass-walled office. The fraud investigation had already reached HR. He was placed on immediate administrative leave, his company laptop and badge confiscated before he could protest.
They're taking everything. My job, my name, and she just sits in that house.
His phone buzzed. A text from his wife. "What's going on? My mother saw your name online."
It's a misunderstanding. I'll handle it.
At home, Linda poured herself a cup of tea. The mantle photograph caught the afternoon light. She felt no triumph, only the quiet weight of necessity. The board's decision was final. Dr. Schaefer would never practice again, and Joseph's freedom was now as fragile as the lie he'd built. The phone rang. The caller ID read, Joseph Reeves. Linda picked up without warmth.
Joseph, I expected this call.
You monster. You've destroyed me. My job, my marriage, everything.
You brought this on yourself. I won't apologize for telling the truth.
She pressed the end call button, then blocked his number. The line went dead for good. She dialed her attorney. In 20 minutes, she was sitting in his office, a notepad between them.
I need to file a report with Adult Protective Services. I want a full audit of any power of attorney that may have been filed.
Her attorney assured her the audit would uncover any fraudulent document, and that the will would be rewritten to exclude Joseph entirely. Linda signed the affidavit with the same steady hand that had once saved a boy's life.
He chose this path. I am just closing the door.
Dr. Schaefer received the final notice. His license was revoked, effective immediately. He packed his office in the dim light of a rented building, filling box after box with the debris of a career. When the last box was sealed, he found a small framed photo, himself at 16, wounded but alive. He sat down heavily and wrote a letter, the pen slow against the paper. Mrs. Reeves, thank you for saving my life and for showing me what I had become. I am sorry for all of it. The letter ended there. No request for forgiveness, no return address.
He wrote it for himself, not for me.
She folded the paper and placed it in the drawer beside the torn form marked fraud. Fraud. Outside her window, the last light of afternoon touched the garden. She thought of Anton and of Joseph, two patients she could not heal. The photograph on the mantel remained, so did the truth. 2 officers arrived at Joseph's apartment at sunrise. They handed him a sealed indictment. The charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse. The maximum penalty was printed in bold. His wife called from the car, voice flat. She couldn't stay. The line went dead. Then his bank texted, "Accounts frozen, fraud investigation." He couldn't touch a single dollar. His employer called next. Termination for cause, pension forfeited, no severance. He sat at the kitchen table, an eviction notice already pinned to the door. No job, no money, no family. An old message from his mother lit up his phone, a photo of her in scrubs, sent years ago. "Love you, Joseph." He stared at the image and wept, not for his loss, but for the mother he'd tried to destroy. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the empty refrigerator. He was alone. He had wanted her estate. He lost his mother, his wife, his career, his freedom, all in one afternoon. Linda sat down with her financial advisor and estate attorney. The final documents lay on the mahogany desk. The new will redirected her entire estate into a medical scholarship foundation. Her advisor's voice was quiet. "Are you sure, Linda? Once signed, Joseph receives nothing."
I've never been more certain. He tried to steal my life. I am protecting my legacy.
She signed each page with the same steady hand that once held a dying boy's wrist. The attorney notarized the document. The seal pressed hard into the paper. The clause read, "Joseph Reeves is forever excluded from any claim on this estate. In his place, a fund would send nurses through school every year."
The boy I saved will have a better legacy than the son I raised.
She walked out of the office into a golden afternoon, lighter than she'd felt in decades. The trial opened under fluorescent lights. Linda took the stand, her posture straight, her voice steady.
He brought a stranger into my home, claiming a wellness visit. The doctor asked me questions, but his eyes kept drifting to a photograph on my mantel.
The prosecutor held up the torn intake form, the word fraud still legible across the top. Joseph's attorney offered no cross-examination. The form spoke for itself. Joseph sat at the defense table, head bowed. Then he whispered to his lawyer. The judge called a recess. When court resumed, Joseph stood and faced the bench.
Your Honor, I plead guilty to all charges. I did it. I am sorry.
In the hallway afterward, Linda passed him in shackles. He lifted his eyes.
Mom, I am sorry for all of it.
She nodded once, her face unreadable, then turned and walked toward the sunlight. The judge pronounced the sentence: 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and a permanent mark on his record. As the gavel fell, the courtroom emptied. No one waited at the railing for Joseph Reeves. He pushed through the courthouse doors into a wall of cameras. Head down, he didn't answer a single question. Through a side exit, Linda slipped away unseen, her low heels quiet on the pavement. In the parking lot, she found her car and sat for a long moment, hands resting on the wheel. Across town, Joseph sat in his empty apartment, surrounded by silence. Joseph lost more than his freedom that day. He lost his mother.
He made his bed. Now, I'll make my tea.
She arrived home, hung her keys on the hook, and walked into the kitchen where the late sun painted the tiles gold. The living room was quiet, the photograph on the mantel still holding its watch. She had done what was necessary. Linda walked to the mantel and stood before the photograph of her younger self in scrubs.
25 years ago, I saved a life. Today, I lost one.
She touched the glass, her fingers tracing the outline of her own face from decades past. Then, she crossed to the sideboard, opened the bottom drawer, and lifted out the torn intake form.
This paper nearly stole my life. Now it's nothing but a receipt for the truth.
She folded it along its old creases, placed it back in the drawer, and pushed it shut. The house settled around her, its old timbers breathing in the quiet. She made a cup of chamomile tea and sat by the window, watching the garden swallow the last light. The photograph on the mantel continued its vigil, silent and immutable. She had lost a son, but she had kept her soul, and that, she understood, was no loss at all. She finished the last of the chamomile and set the cup aside. The kitchen had grown dim.
Anton will serve his penance. Joseph will serve his, and I. I will sleep well tonight.
She rose and walked to the hallway table, where her pearl earrings lay on an embroidered cloth, one by one. She lifted the pearls and placed them in a small porcelain box.
These little pearls have outlasted a marriage, a career, and now a son.
She closed the lid and reached for the lamp switch. A soft click, and the hallway fell into darkness. The only glow came from the mantel, where the photograph of her younger self still caught the fire's last light. Some betrayals teach you who you are. Others teach you who they were all along. And in the dark, the pearls waited, silent and unchanged. The next morning, sunlight poured into the living room and found the photograph on the mantel first. In her garden, Linda knelt by the rose bushes, her silver hair catching the breeze.
I did what I had to do, that's all.
The roses bloomed the same as ever, petals open to the autumn sun. She stood slowly, brushed the soil from her knees, and looked up at the pale blue sky. The house behind her was quiet, its windows bright with morning. Inside, the mantel photograph of her younger self in scrubs still held its silent watch.
I am still here. That's the whole victory.
She carried her trowel back to the shed, the day unfolding around her like a familiar blanket. The garden would need watering, the bills would be paid, and life, stubborn and tender, asked to be lived. The evening light crossed the living room and touched the mantel first, soft amber pooling around the frame. The photograph of Linda in her scrubs caught the last sunbeam, her younger face luminous and still. The house held its history in its walls, and so did Linda. The sofa sat undisturbed, the coffee table bare. All the voices that had filled the room were now memory. She had lost a son, but she had kept her soul. The photograph on the mantel continued its vigil, silent and immutable. A last curve of sunlight struck the glass, flaring once, then fading. Some betrayals teach you who you are, others teach you who they were all along. The room fell into shadow. The house, full of its stories, slept, and in the dark, the photograph waited, unchanged.